In here in the town hall and those online, thank you for joining. Can I just ask everybody that's online to make sure their cameras are always on? And first of all, what I want to do is take apologies. I have apologies that I am aware of Gavin McPhillips and Seamus Green. Have we any other apologies? No. Nobody indicating? Okay, thank you. And we have signed the minutes and confidential meetings of the 2nd of July. Have we any declarations of interest to declare? No indications. Okay, thank you. Reports for decision then. So we're moving to item number 4.1, to consider report and consultations, and Jill will take us through those.
Chair, thank you. So this evening there are 3 consultations for decision, and we have a request of delegated authority for these in terms of the submission dates come this month. So the first consultation is a draft response to the Executive Office's consultation in terms of the inquiry into mother and baby institutions and specifically the redress scheme bill. In relation to that. And so members, you'll recall, this is something that we have been engaging and working on, and you have been working on for a period of time. There was a previous consultation that we responded to in relation to all this aspect. We've done a lot of engagement work through various workshops, and also directly consulted with women in the district who have been directly impacted by this to form our evidence base for the response. So through, I suppose the consultation is really about the technical aspects of the bill, largely, and how the inquiry will progress, but also about eligibility. So throughout the course of the response, the Council has consistently underscores the importance, and central to the response is ensuring that the interests of victims remain at the core of the bill, and that we emphasise that our position is that many of these institutions didn't just treat women unlawfully, but they also contributed to the wider stigmas and influence of the treatment of women in society. So a very important consultation, and we've robustly responded based on the evidence we've gathered. The second consultation then is a draft response to the Department of Justice consultations on the proposals to criminalise sexually explicit deepfake images. And members, you'll be aware this is something again that is increasing and also quite high profile in the media. And in terms of, I suppose, our response, it's very much again a technical consultation, but within the response we've noted that the Council affords and welcomes the protection that this will afford to women and girls, as they are very, very much disproportionately targeted with these types of crimes, and in particular the AI generation of images. So the response highlights really how important it is that the correct terminology is used to ensure that all types of relevant images are captured within the legislation, and the definitions keep pace with technological advancements is really future-proofed, because it's a widely growing area and it's moving very fast. And then the third consultation that we have is the draft response to the Equality Commission consultation in relation to the For Women Scotland ruling and its implications in Northern Ireland. And the response that we have proposed outlines the Council's view on the Commission's consultation, which largely focuses on the approach to the legal interpretation, how the Equality Commission are going to really tackle this issue following the judgment in the For Women Scotland. And our response requests that we would have further guidance in a very much a timely manner and additional clarifications and direction in relation to that consultation. Specifically, in terms of that consultation, I suppose we have re-emphasised the position of the Council and that we formally recognise and acknowledge that the hurt that this issue has caused to the transgender community and others as a result of the ruling and the confusion that this has created in relation to the interpretation and practical arrangements. And I suppose we concur that the unique legal landscape in Northern Ireland introduced significant uncertainties that were not addressed by the Scottish ruling. And we absolutely understand the Equality Concessions need to seek legal clarity from the Northern Ireland courts to ensure that the guidance that they issue accurately reflects the position here in Northern Ireland. In terms of we note in our response that the Council has made no changes to Council policies or access arrangements to date, and that is very important. And we also note in the response our request for specific guidelines in areas which are relevant to the Council. So that's the three consultations that we have for decision. And then there are a number of consultations for information. So there's consultations which will be presented to a future PNR committee meeting. There's a number of consultations that have been referred to other committees, and the members, you'll be aware, this period, the summer period, is a very active period for consultation responses, and those have been coming through. So those are noted. And there's also a number of consultations that we have for noting. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments on those consultations.
Thank you very much, Jill. Yeah, thank you. And our first speaker is Debbie.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Jill. Some very heavy topics there, and very difficult. Where so many people found themselves in really difficult situations, and obviously that has come from mother and baby homes up to this sexual discrimination against girls now, and the discrimination to our trans community as well. So, I mean, I think it's done really, really well. I'm happy enough. I know Nolene wants to make a comment on it, but I'm happy enough to propose it as presented. Thank you.
Is that all three, Debbie?
All three, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. And Dermot?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have to agree with everything that Debbie has said there. Very well done on all three heavy topics indeed. I'm happy to second all three. I just had a question. I was maybe expecting to see a consultation response to the anti-poverty strategy, and just wondering if we were responding to that, or maybe we have. Thank you.
Chair, I think that went to committee last night, so the RNC committee last night.
Okay. And Nolene?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jill. And just to reiterate the further comments, all three consultations, I think our responses have been really, really well done. I'd particularly like to comment on the British Supreme Court ruling consultation, and I'd really commend you on acknowledging the hurt that this has brought to the trans community, because it does seem to be daily political announcements stigmatising them further on top of all the abuse and bullying they already have to deal with. And also I'd commend you for pointing out that they did not engage with the human rights implications in a meaningful way. In my opinion, they completely ignored them, as they would have found out that it is non-compliant with the European Convention of Human Rights. I also think it's good and sensible that we are waiting for the detailed guidance from the Equality Commission, NI, and that we will be having no changes to any of the council policies if and when, you know, the guidance comes out. So, yeah, really well done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nolene. And Victor?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say that as a party, we're happy with the first two consultations, but we won't be supporting the third one. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, there's male and there's female, and that's it. There's no in-betweens or anything else. So our party will not be supporting the third one. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Victor. David?
Thank you, Chair.
Hope you've all a good summer. It seems a long way away now. Just like Councillor Warrington and the Ulster Unionists, we as a party as well are happy to support the first two consultations, but not the last one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. And Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Alliance are supportive of all three. We think it's very measured and the detail is good on all three. So I'm satisfied to support the full three. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. And what I'm going to do is take the first two as proposed and seconded by Debbie and Dermot, and we're all in agreement there, so everybody happy enough. And the third one as proposed by Debbie and seconded by Dermot, we're in agreement, body, Ulster Unionist and the DUP. People happy enough with that? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. And can I just, as Jill has outlined, the other consultations that will be coming up, can we note those just? Debbie, you're happy enough to propose the noting, and Dermot's happy enough to second. Thank you. Okay, that's great. We're going to move to consider report on financial matters now, and Catherine's going to take us to 4.3, and that's the annual statement of accounts for the year ending 31st March 25. And just to note that council powers have been conferred to deal with this item.
Maybe, Chair, if I can bring item 4.2
Yeah.
first. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. The first report, members, then is on financial matters, and then I will bring the report also on the statement of accounts. So within the financial matters report this evening, members, is the Q1 report, which is attached to Appendix 1 in detail for the period April to June, and the associated Treasury Management and Prudential Indicator outturn. The report also includes, for noting, members, Land and Property Services first actual penny product for 25-26, and an update from the Department for Communities in relation to the de-rating grant. Just by way of overview, members, in terms of management accounts, so it's the new financial year then, 25-26 in the first quarter. The expenditure includes a net budget for the year as identified in section 2.1. So what we're looking at is the first quarter included in section 2.1.2. And members, for Appendix 1 then, I have included a summary of the position relative to income and expenditure types. So on the top part of Appendix 1, you will note the variances against the budget profile for the period in relation to operating income, investment income, salaries and wages, members' allowances, electricity, other utilities, waste recycling contracts, and other services costs, income and expenditure. And then, as normal, members, is the allocation of the budgets against our service areas. So in total, the net operating expenditure for the period amounted to £10,397,090 out of a budget profile for the period of £10,923,642. Total expenditure to be financed, members, by way of central government support and rates amounts to £10,897,090 against a budget profile for the period of £11,423,642. Members, in relation to the Treasury Management and Prudential Indicator report in section 2.2, I detail that there are no key emerging risks or issues over and above or any divergence really from the indicators that are set by yourselves as council as part of the estimates process. Noting no new loans. Maybe also would highlight there, members, that the capital spend, which was reported to the Capital Oversight Group at its meeting on Monday evening, is slow to take off in the first quarter, just quoting 449,000 out of an annual budget of 31.2 million. But members will be familiar that the capital estimate includes obviously the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum, which is a significant element of that budget, and it is now well underway. Noting also, members, the investment still holding at good rates, average rate of interest. However, note that as soon as the Bank of England interest rate is reduced, the institutions will also very quickly reduce the interest rates. The investment balances, members, is higher than anticipated at this point in time, and that's due to a number of central government departments making advance payments for future expenditure in the period ending March. And then members, as I say, just for noting the current positive position in terms of the rates rebate, it's still, or the rates finalisation, it's looking positive at this stage, but there's a long way to go between now and the end of the year in the region of 357,000, and the D-rating grant is a positive sum of just under 27,000. Members, subject to any queries, the recommendations are at section 9.1 for the Council to approve the management accounts for the period April to June and the Treasury Management Potential Indicator Outturn Report for the same period, and that the Council notes the first quarter actual penny product and the D-rating grant Q1 for 25-26. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. And David?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Catherine, again for a detailed run through on that. Unless anybody else has questions, I'm quite happy to propose recommendations as set out.
Okay, thanks, David. And I'm going to come to Mark online here.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks, Catherine, as usual. And Chair, I'm happy to second David's proposal there. Catherine, I just have two queries or points really. In terms of, firstly, it's the issue, and I know we've discussed it before in the chamber. It's the issue of the 400,000 that was put in supposedly to accommodate an increase in members' allowances and councillors' allowances. Now, I know, not wanting to rehearse the whole debate, some of us suggested that was the wrong thing to do. I think Councillor Warrington may have even made a formal proposal at the rates process not to do that, but unfortunately he wasn't listened to, even though anyone with their ear slightly close to the ground in local government should have known at that point that it was not going to cost 400,000. So, Catherine, it's really a query about that. In terms, as far as I understand, that is still within the baseline, still probably ring fence for members' allowances, even though we know it's no longer required, which is the right thing to do. The 400,000, it shouldn't have been 400,000, and thankfully it's not 400,000. But where are we with that, Catherine, in terms of, are we simply going to keep that in baseline until we move through the financial year, come in with environment and put it into capital transfers or revenue, or capital reserves or revenue reserves? It would be useful to know where we are with that, because I mean, at this position, halfway through the year, we should be in a position that if we know we're not going to spend that 400,000 or most of that 400,000, surely we're in a position to be thinking about things we could perhaps spend it on, rather than simply doing what this council seems to do best sometimes and simply put it into reserves as out of the easy option. So that's the first query, Chair. The second one then, and I'll just get the table here. I suspect, Catherine, falls under the corporate and strategic services baseline or budget line perhaps, but correct me if I'm wrong. But it's this issue of Dalradian and the ongoing expenditure with the public inquiry. I mean, I read a line or a piece in one of the local newspapers recently, and it talked about, I have the quote here, it stated that a further 400,000 has been budgeted within the 25-26 corporate management budget to cover ongoing participation. So it would just be useful, Catherine, to get clarity on where exactly within that table that 400k sits. And then, Chair, just briefly, a broader comment on that. I mean, we are now in a position, we know there's been over 400,000 spent, because we all get the invoices. I'm not going to go into the detail of the individual invoices, but there's been well in excess of £400,000 spent. And then, Chair, I thought something about that just sort of triggered a memory in my mind. So I went back and checked over previous emails and previous communications that have been sent us as members about that. And there was a note in March 2024 from the Chief Executive directly to the members that she talked about, you know, if 400,000 originally budgeted for expenditure, i.e. the 100,000 for 23-24 and the 300,000 for 24-25 was to be exceeded, there was another 310,000, I think it was, within the contingency reserve. But the important piece, Chair, was, I mean, the Chief Executive was absolutely clear in that communication that anything over and above the 400,000 would have to require council approval via the Policy and Resources Committee. I mean, I've been on this committee from the outset of this new council mandate. I don't remember anything coming to this council to facilitate or to permit the use of the contingency reserve, particularly to go in on that Dalradian piece, Chair, because again, I make the comment, a broad comment, we've had the debate many times before, but we've already spent over 400k. But as far as I understood, if we were to spend a penny more than 400k, it required council approval, and I don't think the council gave approval for that.
Okay.
So it would be useful to get clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask Catherine to pick up on those.
Yeah, maybe Chair, I'll initially pick up on the specific queries in relation to the budget and the management accounts position. So, Chair, members quite right. I've actually highlighted then, as I've called out, maybe members' allowances, the variance there at Q1 is 97,700 and I see me typing £90. So I have done a calculation on that and I would suggest that there will be, over the course of this year, a surplus in that budget of £350,000. Members, it is entirely a matter for the committee and for the council to decide whether a veerment process would take place in regard to that amount. So really, it wouldn't be for me to say how exactly that would be, or maybe even to make a recommendation to yourselves. So it is for a matter, it's a matter for this committee to decide as to any potential reallocation of that budget, whether that be to another service area or whether that be to council reserve. So that can be done at any point in time through any one of the reports that I bring. Just maybe initially just on the corporate management budget is a budget that is available for the council for the use of, and mainly legal and other type fees that are of a corporate nature. There isn't a specific budget for Dalradian. The corporate management budget covers legal and other fees that are deemed a corporate nature to the organisation. And the figure that is included within corporate management costs for 25-26 is 400,000. Maybe if Jill, do you need to come in there? Or?
Yes, really, Catherine, just to confirm that. So there is a budget this year of 400,000 to cover all legal costs, including Dalradian costs. And members will be aware that on a twice monthly basis, we bring an update on the exact costs and the exact expenditure on Dalradian to this committee for information. There has been no spend during the summer period in relation to that budget. So I can give a verbal update in relation to that in terms of that budget line, but that is where there's full reporting of that aligned with the estimates, and there has been no requirement to seek permission or to seek a direction from the council in relation to any budget increases or in relation to any modifications to that budget to date.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Eddie?
Chair, firstly, just think it's quite comical that the Ulster Unionist Party wanted our rates reduced and now are looking to increase the spending of some of that fees at the same time. So it's trying to wear two hats on the same head doesn't really work. There's a couple of questions, Catherine. Thank you for the report as usual. Just the variances that are a bit large are in the place shaping and economic development and investment. If I could just get a bit of clarity as to the reason. I think I picked it up, but I just wanted a bit more clarity. And the only other thing to say is that the interest rates where they are at the minute, we've actually benefited quite substantially over the last couple of years. And actually this might be timing quite well for us. I believe it was 4%, the rate we had estimated for the Lakeland Forum. It's there now. Hopefully it'll continue to go down and make it more affordable for us. So we might have been very fortunate in our timing on that front.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. And Victor?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'll start by saying I'm struggling to see where the Alliance Party members coming from with his comments, but we'll leave that to another day. Obviously, the 400,000 that we put aside is for all legal costs, including Dalradian, and at the minute we know that the court cases is at a standstill at the moment. We also have to remember that we have the potential of 2 other cases, and I'm sure that 400,000 is covered, is covering those as well, and that's on the 2 rights of way that we're currently going through, and that's all I'll say on that. So, you know, that's obviously going to put quite a hole in it as well, if that's the funds that the costs of the legal teams and that, if it comes out of that 400,000 as well. Maybe you can clarify that, Catherine. But, you know, there's nothing happening in the Radian case at the moment, and I would like to make a proposal that this council pauses any further external expenditure on the legal consultancy fees relating to the Radian public inquiry. Indeed, like, we have our own planning officers, and there is no problem with them continuing to attend and inputting their knowledge into the inquiry. But let's cease all external expenditure at the moment, and obviously, hopefully that will help our 400,000 for other areas. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Catherine, do you want to?
Maybe just the two member queries there. So in relation to economic development and place shaping, so economic development includes some promotional events and activities, and I suppose in a very positive, the Fishing Classic is 13,000 in positive variance this year, over and above budget. That's fantastic. Due with additional income, and some of the spend just didn't come in as estimated. There are a number of vacant posts. That budget line also includes the growth deal, so maybe the spend on it just isn't at this point in line with the budget profiled, and then there are a small number of ranges of variances. Likewise, place shaping in terms of the key elements within it is additional income, so it's always good to record additional income. So there's about 35,000 extra there at the moment in relation to planning fees, so which is fantastic. And then there is a couple of vacancies specifically within that service that I suppose has been there for a little while, and hopefully will move forward during the year. So that's that one. In terms in the relation to utilisation of any budget, I suppose it's when the order is required or when the service is deemed required. So the corporate management budget, as I've said earlier, covers all corporate type legal and other type costs that are deemed of a corporate nature that don't necessarily specifically fit within another budget area. And it would only be members whenever that budget is fully expended with whatever costs come first, per se, that we need to seek a variance, which we can do within the veerment process, within the financial regulations, within the operating services themselves, unless the veerment request is of a significant nature that it would need to be brought back to the Policy and Resources Committee for approval.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Chair. And I was just looking for some clarification, maybe if Catherine could provide it. It's in relation to transfers to reserves. My understanding is that will allow us as councillors and officers to review, I suppose, what money is available whenever we're looking at the estimates process, to take a more strategic approach rather than, you know, maybe deciding mid-year that you're going to spend money on X, that at least you can have a much more structured, strategic, more holistic approach to how we spend our money. Is that really how we approach the reserves? I just want to be with a clarification on that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair. So there's two main elements within the budget each year that members, I suppose, can work on. And the reason I said that is the other element is financing of capital expenditure, and there is within that an element as well that members can decide to veer or otherwise. The reason I say not a lot of it is available is because it's mainly fund or paying off loans that exist there in the council. So there's really no movement that I'd be recommending in that. And then the other elements that's left in the budget then is how we finance. That's external support coming in by way of general grant and rates. So stripping it back, we have an income and expenditure broken down by service area, and then there is the transfer to and from reserves. So I suppose when we focus back on how we set a budget, members agree that these are the operating budgets needed for all the service areas, and also decide on how much of a reserve will be utilised or how much they propose to transfer in for future capital development. So it really is a matter for the council to decide whether, if there's a significant variance midway or 9 months through or 10 months, or typically towards the end of the year, that members might have an appetite in or around the estimates time, which is quite a timely time to do so, to decide on whether they want to increase spend in a particular budget area, or alternatively to then transfer to reserves, because it's really the A option, being increased in the budget or transfer to reserves. The only other factor to take into account is that if one decides to increase a budget this year, then that has an absolute implication for the budgets next year, because the budget has been sat as it is. But if members decide that that budget needs another 300, 400, 500,000, initially, before we do anything else, we've got to find that 500,000 in next year's budget before we start to look at any other costs or factors. I hope that provides some clarity.
Okay, happy enough, Anne-Marie?
Yes, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and can any previous speakers online take their hands down once they get a chance? Dermot?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just going to come back on the Ulster Unionists' comment there. Maybe it was a proposal on the Dalradian gold mine. And look, we all know what the Ulster Unionist Party's position on the gold mine is, but the council has had this debate, and the council's position is very, very clear. And the council has entered into a legal case on the basis of the policy. So Sinn Féin will not be supporting any attempt or any stunts tonight to pause the Dalradian legal case. I think it's just sad that the Ulster Unionist parties continue month after month to come in with their stunt politics. I think it's best left outside the council chamber. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dermot. And Robert?
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, you'll understand that I won't agree with Councillor Brown's comments with regard to stunt politics. We have every right to voice our opinion, even though it's been taken. We had opposed before it went and became council policy. So we will continue to promote our stand. And with that said, I will second Councillor Warrington's proposal. Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you have already been in, so I'm not going to take in speakers again.
It was just one of my questions wasn't answered, so it was just ask the question again.
Okay, one wee question then.
Yep, so it's more specifically, so we know there's been more than 400,000 that's been spent. It was my understanding, and it had been communicated to members, that if contingency reserves were required, it would have had to come to this committee for approval. It was more to get confirmation of when that happened, because I don't recall that happening, even though that's what we were told as members.
Okay, Mark, Jill, I think, has given you a very clear answer there that there was no extra spend, and when the budget would run out, that if there was extra spend needed.
Not this year, Chair. Sorry, the 400,000. So there's 100,000 in 23-24, 300,000 last year, so 400,000 in total. We were told if that 400,000 exceeded 400,000, last year there was a reserve of, I think it was 300 or 310,000. We were told then if there wasn't sufficient funding within the baseline last year, and if we had to dip into the reserves last year, which according to the invoices we did, because we spent more than 400,000 over the last 2 years.
Mark.
Not this year. It's just clarification, Chair. When did that come to this committee for approval? I mean, it's quite a clear question.
It's been very clearly stated that there was no extra spend.
Chair,
that's where we're going to leave it at that, Mark. I'm going to move on, Mark. Thank you. You're not coming in again. You can talk as much as you want, but you are not coming in again. At the end of the day, I'm going to chair the committee, Mark. So that's where we're going to sit. I have two proposals on the table. I'm going to take Victor's proposal first, seconded by Robert.
Sorry, David, you've actually got David's proposal second.
But can I take that then, if it's making any difference to the 2 minutes?
No, it's not. You deal with that first and then the other one second.
Can I take that one then, if I have everything noted then?
It's a separate proposal.
It doesn't make any difference in this. Okay, procedurally, guys, I got to take the first one. So David has proposed, and second by Mark, is just to note the papers that we have had here. So are we all in agreement? Okay, thank you. And then I'm going to go to the second one then, proposed by Victor and seconded by Robert, to halt our engagement there on the Dalradian case. So I'm putting that to the floor. Are we all in agreement?
No.
No? Okay. Do I take it that it is just the Ulster Unions and the DUP who are in opposition to that? And is everybody else sorry, in support of that motion rather. And is everybody else in opposition? Yes. Okay, so the proposal falls. Thank you, members. Okay, moving on. I was a little enthusiastic to move to 4.3, and you, Catherine, can take 4.3 now, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is a report on the statement of accounts for the year ended 31st of March and the associated annual governance statement. And members, just at the outset, just advise that the full detail of the statement of accounts was presented to the audit panel yesterday morning at this meeting. Just the first section of the report, just before I maybe even start, just to note that council powers have been conferred to this committee members to deal with this agenda item, and that's to allow for the legislative deadline of the 30th of September for the publication of the accounts, which is included in section 1.1. The draft financial position, members, just by way of background, was presented to this committee on the 11th of June and was updated marginally then and presented back to the Policy Resources Committee meeting on the 2nd of July. The statement of accounts were prepared in line with the Code of Practice and guidance from the Department for Communities, and noting, members, the key, really the key statements which have attached had Appendix 1, which are called the prime statement, so they're really financial figures, but noting, members, that the detailed statement of accounts, the unaudited ones of those, are on decision time, or one advanced as it is, for members' review. So if there's any queries on those at all, please ask. The really important part of the statement of accounts, members, is the report, which details the council, its position, its outlook, and by way of comparing the actual estimates to the outturn position for the year. Section 1.4, members, highlights the regulations that apply, and maybe even before that, just to note that the governance statement, members, that was approved by this committee on the 11th of June is also included in the statement of accounts. There was no amendments. There's also the remuneration report, members, that you'll be familiar with, and it's required again in line with the regulations, and again, as previously advised, the summary of that is available on the council website, for including the members' allowances for the year. In terms of section 2, then, members, at this stage, while the prime statements are not fully audited, they're not expected to change, although fingers crossed over the next couple of weeks. And when they are finalised and certified by Alison and by the chair tonight of the Policy Resources Committee, they will be on the website and have the link included on or before the 30th of September. The key prime statements then, members, that I refer to in the appendix is the comprehensive income and expenditure statement, the movement in reserve statement, which is our usable reserves and unusable reserves, the balance sheet, what the council owns and what the council owes, and the cash flow statement, which is really the movement of cash in our bank balances in and out between the beginning and the end of the year. And then there's a significant number of notes to support the detail within the accounts. So the financial position, members, just to clarify, under section 2.3 is as that was presented previously to the council. I suppose what the statements actually do then, members, is add on or include all the additional accounting adjustments that are required for land and buildings and properties, including valuations, for employee benefits, including pensions, and a number of other non-cash accounting. When I say non-cash, that it don't actually make any direct comparison back to the estimates that our members set. So the summary position, members, is included in the report. The net income and expenditure of 41.1 million, with exceptional income of 525,000, leaving total net income and expenditure of 40.5 million, was approved transfers to reserves of 5 million, additional transfer to reserves for that exceptional income, the use of the council's COVID contingency reserve, financing of capital expenditure at 2.3 million, leaving total expenditure to be funded of 47.48 million, central government support, members, of 3.5 million, rates income of 44 million, leaving a surplus for the year of 119,000. There are a number of movements within the balance sheet, members, which is attached as one of the prime statements. And behind each one of those is a story of where the actual balances end up at the end of the year. Overall, members, the net worth of the council has increased from 197.3 million to 201.3 million. The usable reserves, members, that's after taking account of the capital expenditure in the year, just over 7 million, and those transfers into reserves. So the council has maintained its usable reserve balances at just over £42 million. The council, at this point then, members, as I've alluded to, has a legal requirement to publish the accounts on or before the 30th of September, and we are well advanced in this stage to actually meeting that deadline. So I appreciate there's a lot of figures there. There's a lot of detail within those figures. So subject to any queries, members, that the council approves the statement of accounts for the year ended 31st March 2025, subject to any amendments that may be required following the conclusion of the audit, and that the chair of the Policy and Resources Committee would sign the final audited statements of accounts on or before the 30th September, and that's following recertification of the statements of accounts by Alison as Chief Financial Officer. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Catherine. Have we any questions or comments, members? If not, I'm seeking a proposer and seconder. Thank you, Colette, proposed and seconded by Debbie. Anne-Marie, you were just coming in to second. Okay, are we all in agreement, members? Thank you. And Catherine, thank you very much. Jill, thank you to the whole team there for all of the work that brought us to this point with a really good set of accounts for the year, and I look forward to signing those. Okay, thank you. We're going to move to 4.4 to consider a report on procurement and tenders.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So members, this evening there is one tender to be awarded with just one submission, 7 tenders to be issued and 5 contracts to be extended. They're all for committee approval this evening, and then noting just members 2 tenders that were awarded during the period under delegated authority. So Chair, subject to any queries, the recommendations are detailed in full detail, section 9.1 of the report, and 9.2 is the noting of those tenders issued. Thank you, Chair.
Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose the recommendations as set out and to welcome the tender that's being awarded in relation to the Poverty Support Programme. I think that's a great initiative to be encouraging in our district. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Anne-Marie. And Dermot?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to second, and again, just to welcome that that contract there with Rural Community Network. They did a fantastic job delivering that service, and it's vital that we have that service in place again this year. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Dermot. Are we all in agreement, members? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 4.5 to consider a report on staff matters.
Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, these are 3 items for information tonight. The first being an update in relation to the recent Local Government Staff Commission consultation on neurodiversity in the workplace. So that has resulted in a guidance document being produced by the Local Government Staff Commission, and it can be accessed on the link. We will obviously be given that further consideration in respect of our own working practices in relation to promoting diversity and neurodiversity in the workplace. The second item, Chair, is an open consultation at the moment on the review of Code of Procedures on recruitment and selection, and our proposal in relation to that is that we will issue an officer response to that by the deadline of the 26th of September. And the third item is an information in relation to amendments to the Civil Service Pension Scheme employee pension contribution rates, and in particular the salary bands applicable from the 1st of September 2025. So we still have 20 employees who are members of that scheme, so it's relevant in relation to those employees. So, Chair, happy to take any questions or queries, and those 3 items are for noting the neurodiversity workplace guidance document, the consultation on the review of the Code of Procedures on recruitment and selection, and the update from the Civil Service Pensions in relation to employee pension contribution rates from the 1st of September.
Okay, thanks, Thelma. Can I have a proposer and seconder to note? Noeline?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to note that, and good to see the council's commitment to neurodiversity in the workplace too, part of our equality policy. So I'm happy to note all three.
Thanks, Nolene. And Josephine?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to second the proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, are we all in agreement? Okay, thank you. Moving to 4.6 to consider the Director of Corporate Services report, paper F.
Chair, thank you. Yes, just two items for noting in this report. So the first is our normal quarterly update on council actions and progress, and also Policy and Resources Committee actions and progress for noting. The second item is in relation to a previous action from this committee, which is an update on the Scottish Small Business Bonus Scheme. So this is a scheme that operates in Scotland, and it provides for rates relief for non-domestic properties, for small properties, single properties owned by small businesses. So there's really an update on how the scheme works. It's administered by councils in Scotland and funded by the Scottish Government. So there's about 112,000 properties, quite a large number of properties in receipt of the relief. And interestingly, quite a large number, about 85%, receive the full 100% rates relief. The total cost of the scheme is about £240 million a year. So the paper provides a comparison between that and the rates small business rates relief scheme operating within Northern Ireland, and you can see some of the differences. We've also provided a link to a review of the scheme, which was undertaken in 2022 to evaluate really the impact. And I suppose there was no conclusive outcomes from the impact. I suppose the main thrust of the review was that it was very difficult to get data, accurate data to measure the impact on small businesses due to the variety of businesses and the large number of businesses, that it was difficult to get really conclusive evidence of the effectiveness, but there's some interesting findings in terms of the review. So really, Chair, it's for noting both the update on the council actions and the update on the scheme, the Small Business Bonus Scheme operating in Scotland.
Okay, thanks, John. Josephine, was your hand up from the last time?
Yes, it was, Chair, but I want to thank Jill for her report, and I want to propose the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Josephine. And David?
Thank you, Chair, and Jill there, and I'll quite happily second the recommendation. I just want to make a few comments, I suppose, on the Scottish Small Business Scheme. I think, was it myself raised this a way back? It's clear there from the report that it's hard to determine the outcomes of it, and I suppose the data would be tricky, possibly to get. I suppose by way of experience, we in previous and currently are working in small units in Scotland, and we struggled to get tenants until we could find out what the rateable value was going to be, if it was going to come below the threshold. And once the tenants could find it, if that was the case, filled almost instantly. That's the sort of way we found it right away. If it had come in £5 above the rateable value, top level, you're in trouble. So I think here in Fermanagh, it would take in an awful lot of businesses. That rateable value of, is it 15? 12 for the full 100%. That would take in quite a lot of businesses within our district. And I don't know if it's something that we can ask further up the line to look at. Has it been looked at? It does cost quite a bit, I appreciate that. But businesses really are struggling. There's no doubt about that. We know when we come to the rate setting process, it's very tricky, and we're increasing it by 1% or 2% or whatever. But the rates as a whole is a massive bill for a business, even more so now the cost of staff and that. So anything that we can do to help small business, I think we need to look at, especially in the villages. If you could have small premises in the village that is off the rates, would make a massive difference people coming there, thinking of villages like Kesh, Ederney, Temple, Newton Butler, the empty places. And it would help landlords then to have the confidence to go ahead and renovate these premises. So if I could propose that maybe we could send a letter to the relevant minister to look at that and see what they come back with, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Yes, we're very happy to do that. I suppose we looked at the methods of determining the rateable value, and there is a bit of a difference. So in the Scottish model, it's based on the annual rental income, and it's assessed locally by local assessors based on local evidence of the rental market and floor space and other factors associated with the property. It's a different process that operates here in terms of assessing the NAV value assessed by LPS. So certainly it's worth pointing that out and seeing if there's any scope, or if Department of Finance are looking at that and bringing that to the table.
It's worth the question. Yeah. Okay, Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Happy to second the letter, and if Councillor Mahan is happy to add to it as well. I do notice on the Scottish Small Business Bonus Scheme there are exclusions for betting shops and payday lenders, and I just think that's a bit of a gap in our coverage. So I just wonder if you could add to that letter if Stormont could advise us on that, and whether they from next year would also exclude those two businesses, because they do a lasting damage to society in the areas. So I don't feel they particularly should get that relief scheme. So if we could add that, if they could basically be excluded in future years from that scheme.
Okay. Thanks, Eddie. Can I have somebody to, Josephine, were you wanting in again?
No, I wasn't, Chair, and apologies. I whatever way my online setup is working, I can't actually see whether my hand is raised or not raised. So if it's raised, I'll try taking it down again, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, it is raised at this point. Okay. I have it proposed to note. Can I have a seconder to Dermot? Thank you for the noting of the paper. Are we all agreed to note, members? And then I have my next proposal that we write then, proposed by David and seconded by Eddie. Are we all in agreement with that? Okay, members, thank you very much. Moving on to Chief Executive's reports now, and that's 5.1, the proposed guidance on motions.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you'll recall that there was some discussion at a previous meeting in relation to the accuracy of the content that would be submitted in a motion. And what I've set before you really is a proposed guidance document, which would be appended to standing orders and would then be read in conjunction with standing orders. And that would allow for accuracy and factual accuracy to be included as part of essentially the decision-making process. Summarise the core provisions of standing orders which remain unchanged, as does the decision-making process in relation to motions and how they would appear on the agenda paper. So the proposal, I suppose, Chair, is detailed really at paragraph 2.3 of the report, whereby we would expand on 16.3b to include does not comply with the guidance on motions attached at Appendix 1, and then attached for your consideration is the guidance document. So happy to take any queries, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Alison. And Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Well, no, I was at the workshop where this was all discussed, so I'm happy to propose. Thank you.
Okay. And Mark?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Chief Executive. I'm sorry, I regret actually I didn't get to that meeting on the motions, but unfortunately just wasn't able to attend. I mean, Chair, broadly speaking, I have no issue with guidance, and I actually think it would help if we had very useful and clear guidance in terms of what should and shouldn't be within a motion. But I note the word accurate is included within the guidance. I think it's 3 times I counted. I mean, someone who has been regularly accused of inaccuracy and falsehoods within this chamber, even though I firmly dispute that. Could I just check, Chair? I mean, have we a definition? And it might seem strange, but I'm just conscious of how this council operates sometimes. Have we a definition of the word accurate? Because, I mean, for instance, if we play this out a little bit, could I table a motion tomorrow night, or could I table a motion for the next meeting that this council it lacks transparency? Now, in my opinion, that's factually accurate. I have, in my opinion, compelling evidence to show on a series of issues where the council has lacked transparency. But equally, council officers in all likelihood would retort that no, this council doesn't lack transparency. So what, if you see the point I'm making, Chair, there's a friction clearly in terms of what I believe to be accurate and inaccurate compared to what council officers believe to be accurate and inaccurate. Because, Chair, whilst I say I have no issue with guidance, I would worry reading the proposed guidance that it would be a way, and just conscious of how this council's operated and having been on it for over 2 years now,
Okay.
I would worry that this would be a way of limiting democratic scrutiny and democratic debate. So, Chair, it's a question on the definition of the word accurate.
Yeah, okay, and I'm going to take that one there, Mark, and at the end of the day, the decision of the chair on the motions after taking advice is what is the parameters of allowing a motion to go forward or not. And I'm trusting that you're not insinuating the integrity of either the advice given to chairs or the chairs themselves. So rest assured, nobody is being denied their right to put forward their motions when they're deemed to be accurate. So we're just going to have to take that and trial it and see how we go. Okay, David?
Thank you, Chair. And if it hasn't already, I'm quite happy to second the recommendation there.
That's fine.
Just in relation to 2.1, every motion shall be relevant to some matter. And then A, in relation to which the council and has powers or duties, etc., etc. We've had quite a lot of motions, and I suppose I probably have presented motions, and our party has presented motions, possibly to do with something in the UK government or down south or in a foreign country. Is that where it says there has powers or duties? You know, so the council wouldn't have powers or duties to influence something in America or something in France or so. Is that ruling that out or what does that mean there, Chair? Just.
So, Chair, I suppose those provisions, and members will be aware, the standing orders really across all of the 11 councils are based on what were known as the model standing orders developed by the department. That certainly is very broad in terms of the specific example that Councillor Mahon gives. The council would have a power of lobbying or a power of advocacy. So what we would endeavour when a motion is submitted, if it wasn't clear about its links to the district, the proposer may be asked to provide some further details, and indeed members have done that in the past. So it's contrary maybe to the previous view, it's actually quite a broad interpretation that members can bring forward, really areas of subject matter interest, political interest obviously, or something that they believe has a relevant impact to the council. So if there was something in an international context, if the link to the district was not obvious, I think the proposer may be asked to clarify that before the motion would be maybe finally agreed by the chair.
Thanks very much for that, Chair.
Okay, thanks, David. Eddie?
Thanks. And just adding on to that, would it be fair to say that, for example, the council area had a significant number of...
Eddie, can you just
Sorry?
talk a wee bit into Mike? Thanks.
Too loud. Yes, if the council area had a significant number of a different nationality in the area, then that would be allowable for us to put a motion forward based on the population. Yes.
No, that's correct, Chair. And I think I suppose I would note, and members will be aware, I mean, we do receive motions on a very regular basis. It's actually very unusual for a motion not to make it onto a council agenda, and that is typically a procedural matter around timing, or that the matter has already been considered of similar intent within the last 6 months.
And my experience has been that if you put forward a motion and there's ambiguity, or we'll go back to you and ask you to clarify and sort of maybe reword to allow it to comply. Okay, it's proposed by Debbie and seconded by David. Are we all in agreement?
Could I just record my dissent, please, Chair?
Okay, no bother, Mark. Okay, then we have the minutes of the Southwest Acute Hospital Strategic Development Group.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So these are the minutes of the meeting which took place on the 30th of January, and they were adopted at the SDG meeting on the 4th of July. So that's the most recent meeting, and just for information, obviously, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And can I just have a proposer and seconder to note the minutes? Robert and Victor, thank you. Mark, did you want in?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. It was just I missed this letter and also the one at 6.6 at the very start of the meeting under declarations of interest. Apologies.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's grand. Okay, we're all agreed there, members. That's the minutes done. So we're going to move to correspondence, and we're moving to 6.1, and that's South Cambridgeshire County Council regarding the 4-day working week.
Yes, Chair, thanks for members' noting and information. We've been asked to follow up on the details of the trial of the 4-day working week in South Cambridgeshire, and that is attached for members' information.
Okay. Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to note it, but I haven't been able to actually open the report to actually read it. So, so I've got no comment on it really, but obviously happy to know. But I can see maybe Dermot's managed to read it, but I wasn't able to read it. So just to let you know that.
Okay. Thank you. Dermot, how did you fare it?
Thanks, Chair. Well, I was able to read it, and I was very impressed with the outcome of that trial on the 4-day week. Shows clear progress and efficiencies when it comes to recruitment and retention. There's a decrease in sickness, absence, and an overall increase in a good work-life balance for the staff. So more evidence that this is a good thing. And I can see the evidence mounting higher and higher all the time, not just in Ireland or in England, but right across the world. It now seems that the 4-day week is more common in some countries than the 5-day week. The Netherlands, Iceland, Japan, these are all countries where they are sailing ahead with this. And I actually think that we could be in danger of falling behind if we don't really get to grips with this. I think people still have it in their heads that this is a bit of a mad idea, and people are not, they think that this is a nice idea but not achievable. This is very much achievable. We can see this now that it is achievable, and I think very soon we are going to be getting to grips with this policy. So just that's all I have to say on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you're happy to second the noting of it at this point. Okay, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose just to counter the last contribution, I mean, there is also significant evidence both in the UK and further afield in terms of that indicates that a 4-day week is not all that is made out to be. I mean, evidence, I've learned in many roles now that evidence can be presented in any way to present any argument or to favour any argument. But Chair, if I could just ask Jill a question in terms of, I mean, theoretically, and I appreciate it's a big theoretical, but if Mananoma Council were to adopt a 4-day working week, how would that work between frontline public facing services and sort of back of house staff? So say take a staff member that works in town hall who could feasibly work 4 days a week compared to someone who works in waste management who works 5 days a week or 35 or 40 hours, whatever it must be. I mean, surely there would be a huge inequity and unfairness for those staff groups, because whilst I note Dermot's, I don't agree with Dermot's point, but I note Dermot's point about, productivity increases. The staff within waste management, I suspect, would probably already argue, and I tend to agree, that they are already pretty productive. They can't be, I mean, if you go from a 5-day to a 4-day week and don't expect a dip in productivity, you have to be 25% more productive in the other 4 days. I don't think it's feasible to expect staff within waste management teams to be 25% more productive every day. So would it not be a huge inequity for those staff groups if we moved some of the council to a 4-day week compared to those then that remained on a 5? Thank you.
Okay. Jill, do you want to?
It's certainly something we would have to look at very, very carefully right across the organisation to ensure that should it be implemented, that it was done absolutely equitably across the entire workforce. And as you know, and as the members alluded to, we have quite a diverse range of services and staff in a very large number of roles. So we would have to look at the process of implementation very carefully over a prolonged period, have extensive consultation with staff and with trade unions on what that might look like, and absolutely ensure that it was equitable and fair right across the organisation, and also that it would lead to significant benefits for ultimately the residents in the district, which is really what we at. So it would be a huge piece of work and piece of research to look at that and to consider that and yeah.
Whenever we would come to that point. Okay, Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, I kind of agree with what Jill has said there. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that the services we provide to the council, for the council members across the district, are to the highest standard. And unfortunately, that report, whilst a lot of encouraging things in it, doesn't really talk about productivity. And it's hard to put that in the frame when you haven't got that data. Yes, there's a significant reduction in sickness, but really you're looking probably about 3 days less a week per member of staff. It's not exactly 25% or 20% reduction that you would probably need for it to work. So it's not in a complete report, unfortunately. So it's hard really to go off the basis of that as to what the impact would be on. But yeah, I think really at the end of the day, we have to make sure that what the services we're providing are covered at all times. And yeah, based on that, I don't think it would be suitable for us to progress any further with it at the moment, fortunately.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. And moving to David.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose the issue I would see with this is, as a corporate body, if that happened, well and good, but it would put serious pressure on businesses then, that their staff would be looking to them and saying, here, hold on a minute, why can we not get a 4-day week? And it'd be a 4-day week at a 5-day pay, I'd imagine. So I think we need to be careful here, and going too fast down this track. I know it's not something that I'd be looking to hear staff talking about. They're hard to get at the moment anyway, and then to have to look for more to cover them days, I just think it could be problematic. Although it'd be lovely to only work 4 days out of 5. I think everybody would love that. But whether it's actually achievable is something else.
Okay. Thanks to everybody's contribution there. I have it proposed by Debbie and seconded by Dermot to note. So are we all in agreement? Okay, thank you. Moving on then to 6.2.
Chair, this letter is from the Department for Communities, and it followed on from discussions we had had previous at Policy and Resources regarding actually discussed earlier as well around regeneration potential, particularly in rural communities and villages. And one of the previous schemes was known as UDG, which was Urban Development Grants. And this is a response from DFC confirming that the last allocated run of that scheme was in 2016. It doesn't, it's not going to be revisited, and there's no current comparable scheme in place.
Okay. Thanks, Alison. Can I have a proposer and seconder to note? And Rob?
Thanks very much, Tom. Happy to propose, but just a little bit of latitude, if you would, and it's tied to this. I think there's going to be a skills shortage coming up in the construction industry. And I think it would be incumbent on this council actually to engage with central government with regard to funding. And the issue is basically around the promotion of apprenticeships. Now, there seem to be enough young men and women, I'll just say young people, going into the training centres. But what they can't get after their 2 days are placements actually out in the construction industry. Because it used to be a grant scheme maybe 15 or 20 years ago when I was active in the construction industry, where central government subsidised the employer to actually carry on-site training. That is no longer available. And what currently happens is when a small company or a large company takes on an apprentice, they actually have to pay the apprentice, I think it's $7.50 or $7.80 an hour for 5 days a week. 2 of those days are at the training centre. The other 3 days are on site. But the problem is to actually get recompense on the job, because those people are only learning on the job. Therefore, as a charge out rate, a lot of small businesses can't charge them out. And what is happening is that a lot of apprentices are going through the 4-year scheme, but on the 3 days when they can't get placement in the construction industry, they're getting a placement somewhere else, going to a shop, a store, something like that. So at the end of the 4-year, when they do their exams and they actually pass all their exams, they are not necessarily fit for purpose to go out into the construction industry. And I would ask anybody here at the moment to look for a plumber, an electrician, a joiner, second fix or first fix, a plasterer or a bricklayer, particularly the wet trades. They are not going in and they can't get placed. And what we're having is that people in the industry are staying on longer in the industry. So people of my age going into their 70s are still working because 1, they want to work, and 2, small firms can't do without them. But in about 5 to 8 years, when those people actually go out of the industry, there aren't enough people coming back up to actually do, and construction is going to grind down. Now, I know it's changing the way that is going on, but I think we as a council need to engage with central government with regard to reactivation of incentives for small employers and large employers to actually be paid to carry apprentices through. I'm sorry, it's a bit long-winded.
No. Excellently made point there, Robert. And I think quite right. There is a dearth of ability for young people to get that practical experience, not alone just in the construction industry, but across various industries. So, and the move to apprenticeships is very, very important. So to be able to provide the amount of opportunities, we need to try and do as much as we can. Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Happy to second that if it needs a second. I think, yes, that's for quite often now we have almost an obsession with kids going to university, and at times, you know, an apprenticeship is people almost look down their nose at it, and it really shouldn't be that case. It's an incredible job that people can get into and can do very well out of. So I'm more than happy to second that. I think the reliance upon a business to pay that hourly fee for the 2 days not there in particular is makes it much more difficult probably to fill those gaps. I know certainly as a pharmacist, when I was doing my pre-registration year, the pharmacies themselves actually were funded to pay us, and that came from that, because there's so much for the pharmacist to do to get us up to a level of competency, and it's no different in any other trade. So I think it's a bit unfair for the businesses to have to fork out to do that. So anything that Robert has said there that can aid the businesses in taking more people on, because there's no doubt, you listen to the increase in the amount that's gone through the planning in the past number of months, there's going to be an increase coming. So yes, I think we should be trying to support that any way we can.
You're seconding Robert's proposal. You also second the noting. Thanks, Eddie. And Debbie?
Yeah, I'll support that as well. And I was just thinking there, is there any way we could get some local information from the college then? Because obviously they're providing the education. So are they struggling to find placements? You know, it's just if we're going to write to central government, it'd be good to have that local backup from the college as well, that, you know, they're struggling to find placements in you know, construction and the kids are going to maybe retail instead when they should, you know. So if we could back it up with local information from the college as well.
Yeah, I'm sure the college would be happy enough to provide us with that. Can I just seek clarification as to who then, particularly in the construction industry, that we would write to? But I think it's a wider problem for apprentices, and I don't know if we have to do one specifically to somebody about construction, and maybe where do we go for a wider sort of tourism and maybe pharmacy or different types?
So I think, Chair, just in relation to the government body in the first instance would be the Department for the Economy. And I think they would also have quite a good cross industry set of data that we could report back on. There would, as you've indicated, Chair, be a number of industry bodies such as Construction Employers Foundation and others. We have quite a bit of data just at a local level through our own labour market partnership around placements as well and apprenticeships, and that's maybe something we could identify. And I suppose maybe, Chair, as the reference, and I know the emphasis that Councillor Irvine has put on it, but there is also the wider issue, I suppose, at a Northern Ireland level in relation to the apprenticeship levy and the amount of money that is going to Westminster, but actually no benefit is attaching here within the local economy. So that might also be an appropriate time just to reiterate general concerns around that approach as well. In terms of the college, certainly we can, and I know they are also a member of the LMP, so we may already have good data from them, but that would be my suggestion, at least in the first instance, and if there's any gaps after that, we could review again.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that clarification. We're all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. Okay, and moving on then to 6.3.
Yes, Chair. This is hopefully a good news story. The Council had previously raised concerns regarding the latent testing for Newton Butler, and the Rural Housing Association have written back to confirm that following essentially a rerunning of the process, additional people came forward, and that led to the Housing Executive supporting the application, and 6 new homes have now been built as a result.
Just to put this into some sort of context, and why I raised this question was that, and my old memory fails me, but I can't remember exactly how many years ago it was from the latent demand test was done in Newton Butler, and subsequent, sometime after that, I went around with, I think the lady's name was Victoria from Rural Housing, and we looked at a number of sites. That's a number of years ago. And to this point, we still have no houses built. So, while I appreciate that Rural Housing have came back to us, they're not actually telling us very much. And many years after the latent demand, and this was crucially the crux of the problem, that we go out to a latent demand, and I appreciate it's not Rural Housing, this is the Housing Executive and how they conduct latent demand testing to establish a need, that it is so long after the actual people are spoken to that there is any opportunity for a house to actually raise itself off the ground, that those people have probably moved on and married and left the country. So, we need to find a better way to try and deal with the latent demand. But on this particular one, when we actually have the agreement to build 6, years later, we're still not any further forward. And I spoke to Rural Housing, and there's a gentleman, John McGinn, who is to come back to me to explain why we're still looking at sites when there is so many sites there and we still haven't moved anywhere in considerable time. Victor?
Thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, this would have been good news for you in your area of Newton Butler, and it certainly is good news. But I think it shows that we need to, obviously, the latent in other areas, in certainly I'm thinking of Erne East, and again across the whole council area would need to be looked at. Let's be honest with you, the Housing Executive, was it last year they only built 6 houses, and I think it was North Belfast somewhere. And so compared to the amount of houses that was built going back even 40 years ago, it really is dismal. So it would be good to see maybe this latent demand test maybe taking place in other areas throughout our council area. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, and quite a high threshold to meet to get a positive result out of your latent demand test. You're proposing a note for me, thank you. And just before I take the other speakers in, I was at the RTP planning conference in Belfast today, and certainly it was discussed at that conference, the amount of houses somewhere in the range of 100,000. Some people thought, you know, that's not near enough, and others thought unachievable, but we're nowhere near meeting even that target. So, you know, your point about building is very, very important, and we don't seem to be able to get the system organised to be able to build houses, never mind social and affordable houses, you know. But other than that, it was a very good conference and well attended. David?
Thank you, Chair. And if just watch out, I don't have it clearing this here, but I don't think so. The issue, I think, with Newton Butler is the sewerage. There may be sites, but the sewerage is a problem, firstly. And secondly, to get a small number of sites, 6, 8, 10, from memory, the new planning rules don't like sites coming in under 10 units. It's another stumbling block, I think.
Well, that's more in the bigger settlements.
Aye. So, but I do know that the sewers, particularly, is a problem in Eden Butler, and I have here that they are looking for a small site in Eden Butler. So that is
no shortage of sites, and I brought them around at least 10 sites. So their struggle to look. I am not buying that one whatsoever. You're seconding the noting of the correspondence, David. Cheers. Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, just to follow on, you know, it is good news, but we'll see it when it finally gets over the line, I suppose. But it has a number of knock-on effects too. I mean, it's obviously cheaper to buy land rurally than it is in a busy built-up area. So, you know, if you've got a small budget of housing, you build it rurally, and the people who are going to move in generally are already living in the urban areas, so it's the cheapest option really to move people out to where they actually have the demand. So hopefully it follows suit further afield, but as the chair has said, it's with bated breath we wait so far.
Yeah. Okay. Are we all agreed in the noting, members? Thank you. Okay, moving to 6.4.
Yes, Chair, just for noting, it's NILGA's update, just their normal newsletter that we attach to the papers.
Okay, thanks. And Debbie and Robert, all agreed, members? Anne-Marie, you're in agreement? Good. Moving on then to 6.5.
Yes, Chair. We had, members may recall, we had quite a number of letters in and around Stormayowan, and one of the ones was in relation to a dedicated elected member phone line in relation to BT. So we had done a number of reminder letters, and this is the response back, which in summary is saying that BT no longer operate a dedicated line for elected members to raise constituents' concerns.
Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to note that. But can I just ask one question? Could we write to the Department of Communities to ask if there is going to be some kind of elected rep hotline for universal credit, because it is posing such an issue? I mean, at the minute, there's hundreds of people being migrated over in our council area from income related ESA to universal credit, and you know, you've only got the public number to ask, and I know it's come up in other areas, and I think they brought it up in the Assembly even as well. But, you know, when you're working on the ground and trying to help people, you know, you don't want to spend half an hour waiting for somebody to answer the phone. It's just a waste of time. And there used to be an elected rep number years ago for, well, although that was only HMRC, but they seem to have taken them all away. But we really do need it. And people, you know, it's really helpful for us when we're doing that type of work. So especially for people, for universal credit.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Debbie. We seem to be on a backwards movement by all of the departments and agencies and bodies. They don't want to talk to elected reps, and this feeds in, and I don't want to get on my hobby horse about respect for local government and how we're being treated. You know, this idea that you just email everything and they come back to you if and when they want to at some point while you have a constituent sitting beside you looking for an answer there and then, it's not acceptable. BT have slithered back from their number that was helpful whenever it was done. Northern Ireland Water, to be fair, they have their number and you can ring up and you get a good service and they respond back. I think it's shows the benefit of having a number, and I think this is, when I read this, I think it's deplorable by a big telecommunications company that they don't, but I've got to say, you know, nothing unexpected there. Eddie?
Thanks, Chair. Our previous local run-ins with BT, I'm not surprised in the slightest. I think the letter pack's a bit farcical, trying to pull the wool over our eyes. If the issue was that it was using the mobile, then just get a landline. You know, if that was really the problem, you know,
they're bound to have one.
You know, they're bound to have one somewhere. You know, so yeah, it's. I mean, they must think we're completely stupid. But yeah, it's very frustrating to see that. And echoing what you've said there, Chair, it is very difficult to get through for a lot of different organisations now. And I get GDPR thrown in my face then all of a sudden once you get through, you know, which is a nonsense too. So yeah, entirely expected really, this letter from BT.
And you're seconding the noting. And we're moving to Nolene.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in to second Debbie's proposal and agree with all the comments so far. The same problems as every other elected rep getting through to these people. And as you said, if they're not next to you when you're speaking to these people, they will not speak to you because you have to give permission to. So email's the only way to go. But as you said, that's not not instant, but you know, they have to go back. We have to contact them again. So yeah, just seconding Councillor Corr's proposal, Chair.
And I even had a case with the Western Trust where I had the person sitting beside me and they still wouldn't speak to me because they said, nope, we can't verify that that is the person. We must send them out a permission letter and they must send that back in before we can speak to them. Now, funny enough, I said, that's okay. I'll withdraw from the conversation and you talk directly to the person. They talk directly to the person, but they wouldn't do it with an elected rep without a GDPR coverage letter. So, you know, it has become farcical how difficult it is to do our job to help people, even when we have them sitting beside us. So, okay. I have Debbie's proposal and seconded by Nolene there. First of all, I'm taking Debbie's proposal and Eddie seconding the noting of the correspondence, and then the second by Debbie and Nolene to write on the Department of Communities. Yes, yeah. Okay. Are we all in agreement there, members? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
6.6.
Yep. So, Chair, just bringing this conference to members' attention. It's the 2025 Joint North-South Public Health Conference. Mindful it's an area of interest for councillors. And you'll see it's a free event next Thursday, the 18th, online from 10, and the registration details are provided. We just would ask, Chair, if any member was registering, that they would let us know so we can keep a log of it just for members' own development. But clearly, determinants of health through poverty and practice is something we've discussed here before and might well be of interest to members.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. And Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to know, and I'll probably register as well. Thank you.
Okay, and have I a seconder for the noting? Elaine, I seen first. Yeah, I seen Elaine first. So, and there's no other takers on the conference? Colette?
I'll register for that too, please.
Okay.
Chair, I may be able to attend that, but I will confirm at a later date. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josephine. Is that one of those that you register yourself, is it?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's just really just keep a note.
Keep a note.
Members to-
So members can register themselves, and just I'll advise Alison that you're doing so. Debbie?
I'm not sure why, but you see where it says click here to the conference, click here to register. The same as the other document, I can't get in, so I don't know whether somebody can resend it to me or whatever. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get IT to give you a hand. Okay, Alison?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just into other correspondence now, and we have a couple of items. The first, members, is actually, it's another conference. It will be next Tuesday. It's an in-person event, and it's been forwarded by the National Women's Council of Ireland. There is no cost to attend the conference. It is in Dublin, so travel costs would apply. And it's on the theme of exploring the intersection between housing, precarity, homelessness, and how these interact with various forms of domestic, sexual, and gender-based violence, which obviously builds on some of the work from Ending Violence Against Women and Girls. So bringing it for information, but just given the timescale, Chair, we would need to know this evening if anyone wished to be nominated.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Debbie?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to know, and just to confirm that I'll be registering to attend that as well.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you. And have a seconder for the noting? Nolene, thank you. Okay, no other takers? Okay. And you have another one?
Yeah, just two more actually, Chair. The second, Chair, we have a letter just received this evening from the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, and this follows on from the Council's submission of our work on rural affairs and rural policy matters. And the officers, the Deputy Director of Rural Affairs has indicated their willingness to meet with the subcommittee chair. We've checked with member schedule, and the 24th of September from 4 to 5 p.m. appears to be most suitable. So we would be bringing that to the Rural Affairs Subcommittee's attention, and we would proceed on that basis. So really just a proposer and seconder to note for now, Chair. I think from many of these meetings, and we had a very productive meeting earlier today in Omagh with the Minister of Finance, I think officials are maybe doing an initial engagement, potentially then with ministers or more senior officials to engage with the subcommittee.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Can I have a proposer and seconder? Robert, thank you. And Eddie, seconded. Thank you. And our next then?
Thank you, Chair. So just this evening, and we will circulate this to members, Chair, we've received an invitation from Fintona, Ceoltas Ceoltóirí Éireann, to invite all local councillors to their celebration event, which is this Saturday, the 13th of September at 7 p.m. in Fintona Golf Club. So again, we'll circulate that by email, and just to bring it to attention. And the final item, Chair, is I am aware a number of members, particularly those who may have been previous council or committee chairs, have received an invitation from the Chinese consulate to attend the celebration information event on Thursday, the 24th, I think it is, of September in the consulate. And it would just be to seek approval, Chair, for that to be an approved duty for those members available to attend. And if we could just get the registration details for members who expressed an interest accordingly.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Debbie?
Thanks, yeah, Chair. Yes, just to note that, and I got one of those invites as well. I think there was two dates on that, two different events, and I know one that I would probably go to and the other one I can't. But can I just, if you'd let me, there was a conference mentioned last night from Queen's, the Boardex project from Queen's University.
Debbie, hold on just 1 second. Can we deal with what we've got first?
Yep, come on then. Can I come in
I'll
after
come back
then?
to you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll come back to you.
Oh, yeah, so I'll note that one, yes.
Yeah, so you're going to note the three different conferences there, or events, and I need a seconder for that, yeah. Robert, thank you. Okay, so that is good. Can we just check with the Chinese consulate? They have, I think, is it Thursday the 26th down or something? I think there's a little anomaly there. I think it's the Friday.
Yeah, no, just to be clear, Chair. So yes, there was an anomaly or an inaccuracy in the original date. The evening in question, it will be the Thursday evening, is the evening of the celebration.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, that's approved there. So, Debbie, I did say I'd come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just the Boardex project that Queen's University are doing, and they're holding a conference. And I was listening to this when I was watching the meeting last night, and I think the key themes are relevant, very relevant to issues that they're facing our communities now, especially the gender and violence against women, our Black and ethnic communities and immigration, addiction, drugs, LGBTQ+ communities, our youth, legacy of conflict and community capacity building. So if I can put my name, I'm not sure if anybody did last night, but I'd certainly be interested in attending that.
Okay, have we a seconder for that? Elian, thank you. No other takers there? Are we all agreed? Thank you. Okay, there's no other correspondence. That's us. And there's no other urgent or relevant business there. So if I could have a proposer, Robert, thank you. And the seconder then, Dermot, to go into committee, and Adele. is going to let me know. Fast and efficient as always. So I'm going to ask Alison just to give us a little resume.
Oh, thank you, Chair. While in committee, the Council considered the confidential staff matters report. They approved various recommendations, Chair, and also noted a number of updates.
Okay, can I have a propose Rob and Debbie second? Okay, members, that does bring us to a conclusion. So thank you very much. Safe home and good night to those that are already home.
Thank